Welcome to the introductory video for Compare, software that allows you to find the differences between any two comma-delimited files. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing files that you can use with Compare, looking at the functionality and interpreting the results. Let's start off with a look at the files that you can use. Here we have a comma-delimited file in Excel. This file has 7 column headers. It's important that the two files that you compare have the same column headers. The first header in this file is the ID number. This is the field that we are going to use to match each record between the first file and the second file. Let's plug these two files into Compare. You begin by selecting the two files that you wish to compare to each other. Next, you must select a key field. The options available for selection are the column headers from the files. In our example, we're going to select ID number because ID number is unique for each different record in the files, and it allows the program to match a record between file 1 and file 2. You can select more than one key field if there is no single field that allows for unique match. This might occur if you have first name and last name, but no ID number. If the combination of first name and last name is unique between the two files, then those two fields could be selected as your keys. We're going to proceed with just an ID number. Once selected, each key will appear here on the side. We'll talk about the output later. For now, let's just look at the results. Compare has just taken the two files and generated a third file to show the differences between the two. Let's take a look at that. The first thing you'll notice about the output file is that it contains many more columns than the original two files. Each of the first two files had only 7 columns. For each column in the first two files, there are now 3 columns. For example, each of the two files contained a first name field. Here we see the first name field from file number 1 and the first name field from file number 2. Next to those, we see whether those two values match. This is repeated for every column on the original files. On the left, column B tells us whether every single field matches between file 1 and file 2, where the ID number or the key is number 1. This allows us to quickly filter only for records where there is some difference between the two files. Let's take a look at some of the kinds of differences that Compare can detect. For record number 101, we see that those two records are different, and we see that file B has all blank values. This means that record 101 existed on file number 1, but not on file number 2. So we see the values for file 1 and blank values for file 2. This is also the case for the next 3 records. On subsequent records, we see some other examples of the differences that are detected. Here, on record number 15, we see that Continental has a leading space on file 1 and no leading space on file 2. On record number 20, we see that the car model was capitalized on file 2, but not on file 1. On record number 4, we see that there was a special character, an E with an accent, on the first name column of file 1, while on file 2 there was no accent. This view allows us to focus in on the differences and decide what to do about each one. For instance, on record number 26, we might decide that it is of no consequence that Jean-Paul is written a different way between file 1 and file 2. In that case, we can just accept the difference. Since that's the only difference that was detected on this record, in column B we see that the record is now accepted. On record number 49, we might decide that we need to fix the difference between the car models, so we can mark this as fix. Let's take a look at some of the other tabs in the output. The last two tabs contain all of the original information from File 1 and File 2. We're going to come back to these in a moment. Let's take a look at the stats. The stats tell us the total number of records on each file, the total number of unique records between the two files, how many differences were detected, and the total number of warnings. If we take a look at the warnings, we see information such as duplicated keys. For example, in the first file, there were 2 records with ID number 7. One of those records was discarded in order to compare File A to File B. This is where we go back to the tabs for the first file and the second file. Here we can see the 2 records with ID number 7. The one on line 9 was discarded, so in order to correct your data, you want to make sure you account for any lines that were discarded, which can be found on the Warnings tab. Now that we've gone over the results, let's go back to the Compare interface and look at some of the other output options. The first time we ran Compare for these 2 files, we didn't change any of the default output options. The 2 options are that you can show either all records from files 1 and 2, or the output can only show the differences. The other option is to exclude the data from the original sheets. Let's turn both of these on and have another look at the results. You'll see it's as if the output was already filtered just to show the differences. You'll also see that there are no tabs for File 1 and File 2. If you are comparing 2 very large files, then choosing to only show the differences and choosing to exclude the data from File 1 and File 2 as separate tabs can speed up the compare. Compare runs on your desktop, which means that you don't need to upload the files you wish to analyze, increasing data security. It runs on computers with Windows Professional 7 or greater and will work with any comma-delimited file up to a maximum of 255 columns and a maximum of 8,192 characters per record. There are resources to help get you started through the menu, including a Getting Started guide, FAQs, and a support portal. When using the support portal, please be aware that you should not post any personally identifiable information in the files that you upload. An internet connection is required to access the Help menu, but Compare can be used offline for up to 10 times in a row before reconnecting to the internet. You can get started on Compare right away with a 2-month free trial, and a paid version is also available by subscription. Thank you and happy comparing!